Yeah, welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings Here. Yeah. inMendham. Me. I. Yeah. So this is, like this video, it's an event, okay? It doesn't really work as just any still image or something. That's not what it is. And likewise our being alive, conscious, is an event. It's just eventing. It's not a place. It's not a thing, okay, that has stuff happen to it, in the sense that it is a thing that just, does, it makes it, like a light bulb makes lights, photons. It's just part of the function. So part of the function is you have a thought or you have a feeling, and you do it in this atmosphere of a time frame, in the sense that the mechanical universe is always on the move. It's and everything's an event, frankly, even a photon. No, it's not a thing technically. So I think that's all this argument with the modern mystic comes down to, is he insists that for you to, for something to be happening, that it has to be happening to a thing. And, we're not a thing in the sense that we're not just a place where you deliver thoughts and then you deliver feelings. There's not some system of delivery. It's just a byproduct of the function. So the brain makes it when it makes it, and it's not like a loaf of bread and then something eats it and then that's the feeling. It's just happens in the process of making it. So anyway, it just seems like such a semantics cheat and all this other stuff to just evade, to cheat the reality and pretend that because it's not happening to something you want to consider a thing, a place, let's just say it's not happening in a place, therefore it's not an event, and therefore it didn't happen. And it just seems like such a weaselly cheat for way too intelligent a person, and I guess can't get over that. So you have to indulge this videos where I make these arguments, just because I have this problem with intelligent things being stupid. I mean, they really shouldn't be. It's like, they shouldn't do really dumb things. Don't know what to, there's probably some sort of iPhone example of stupid functions, where it decides to, destroy your memory or do something, delete everything, on its own volition for no good reason. But anyway, some bent function that allows for good brains to go bad and such. And it's stated, it's one thing, there's one element you're arguing with or trying to communicate with, and that's people who do have some knowledge of science and history and science, in the sense of how the brain works and all that kind of stuff. Have spent some time listening to the various theories and all of that stuff, and are informed. And then there's people who just have no clue, who haven't don't even know how to turn their radio down. There's people who are just way too stupid. Speaking of which, this is the day after Independence Day, the celebration, and they have fireworks here, and so I get to watch the the huddled masses walk by. Oh, it's just so, I just can't relate to people anymore on any level. It's like they're just different. It's like watching coyotes or hyenas walk down the street. Can't see much similarity or connection to or anything. And, you know, the little babies and all kinds of, it's just like, oh God, how could they, how can they swim in that sewage? Anyway, so to me it's, these are, humans have become animals. I just can't understand. But anyway, that's my problem. I know it's partly because, I'm just too old. I just been there, done that, seen that, threw up on that. I'm just done with this shit. It's just so. So I actually had that kind of memory where I thought of being back in school, and it did actually make me nauseous. Just even the idea of it, having a locker and the whole thing. Just no. Oh, I can't go back to that prison. It just all seems, horrible. Anyway, so so I guess I'll play this video. He's making a video responding because I guess a couple of people from this channel harassed him in the comments section, a little bit challenging this idea that feelings aren't a relevant, meaningful event, in the universe, and it's not something to talk about. I mean, it's much more interesting to talk about things that completely don't have anything to do with the feelings than it is to talk about feelings. And it's just so, obviously the only thing that really, the only component of what we do that has value is the feeling part, and the rest of it doesn't matter. Just a fact. All we're playing for is feelings, ours and other people's and animals, and that's it. That's all that's on the table that means anything. Any other piece of paper isn't currency. Any other, trinket or piece of stuff you could throw in there just isn't meaningful. All the rest is arbitrary and, erroneously not relevant. Because, that's the only part of what our brain does produce that has value is the capacity to affect how things feel. So our thoughts have value because they can affect how we, what we do to other people, including ourselves. I mean, obviously our own thought processes, can be optimistic or pessimistic. Like me thinking about being back in school or something. I should just, let's not do that anymore. Let's not reminisce about anything. And then you won't have any horrible reaction like, oh God, they're doing that over and over again. Oh, fuck. So I can spare myself grief by avoiding, avoiding stepping right in it. It's in the sense of stepping right in to a chain of thinking that will inevitably lead to, oh, this sucks. You can sort of know when you're doing that. Sort of. You can, to some extent, you can't, I can't completely, I can't very well control my reactions and how I, what I think about, or how I think about it. But to some extent you can. It's hard. It's pretty hard to measure how well or badly I'm doing that. So I won't bother attempting to measure it, because then I'll just feel bad that I'm not performing as well as I should be, or some kind of crap like that. But anyway, I'm good enough where I keep myself from being totally despondent. Well, whatever that is. Infinitely despondent. Oh God, it really is just horrible. Yeah. Life on Earth. Anyway, so let's play some of this and see if I get inspired to say something more interesting. Yay. Because I really don't have any, I just don't have any notes. I sort of, when I'm making the video, I'm in the argument, I'm, trying to figure out how to, and then I figured out, well, this is just semantics. He's just playing a game where he's saying every time you say the word I, you have to replace it with this brain thing. The one here I'm pointing to, makes it, and so what? That's it. Yes. So, like suns burn hydrogen, that's what our brains do. What they say the sun does shouldn't fall for that. Actually, it is on fire, so you can say that much. It burns. They don't draw the truth. Let's see if my volume's good enough. I'm sorry, I should have checked that ahead of time. Yeah, we could probably use a little bit more and such. It's probably too much, but we'll go for it. They don't connect the dots. Yeah, it's probably gonna have an echo, so we'll get rid of some of that. Sorry. Yeah, it's just whatever. Busy week, blah blah blah. I just can't quite get my act together this week. Based on what the dots say. They base them on where they want the dots to say. So look, that's all we're doing here is arguing about this vague image we have of reality. And all of us. It's just not a detailed, we don't get to see all the evolution. We don't get to see all the events that have taken place. We don't get to see inside the brain. We don't get to see a whole bunch of stuff. So we don't have very complete. So we just got this, rough dot picture. And, we're trying to sit there and say, what is it? Does it spell good or does it spell bad? Kind of object. That's the, is it a scary monster Dorian Gray painting, or is it some Rockwellian, happy woman crocheting? And obviously we disagree, obviously, and the reason why we disagree isn't so much because the facts are that hard to connect, it's that people won't connect them honestly. So they're going to force a god into the picture, or some kind of spiritual crap, or some silver lining theory, some sort of whitewash, to convert this stupid DNA robot gladiator war meat grinder into some other picture. And they're just cheating. Adversary is, and it's not just ignorance, it's the fact that people just don't want to play let's be rational. And as stated, it's just, the scary part is that the only people who can fix it, right? The dumbass retards, the passengers of the yellow bus aren't going to be able to do anything. They're not going to provide your solution. So the only solution can come from the smarter people, the more informed, more educated people who are liberated from silly delusions of religion and nonsense. They're the only people who can come to the rescue, and they're preoccupied being assholes. That they can't seem to figure out that stealing isn't a good idea. They're just lost in their personal ambitions and don't seem to get that there's a big picture here at all. And that is just, whoa. The standard of smart just, means that the smart people aren't very smart if they can't even figure out this kind of crap. That all we're playing for is what will be experienced by sentient organisms on this planet. That's what we're playing for. And the fact they can't get that, come on. It's just, it's just dismally disappointing. the brain functions are real, the brain does real things to create those circumstances. Right, so it's all a mechanical thing. If we could see it, then we could take a video of it. Oh, this is a toothache. This is a nail in your eye. Your brain does something, and then that event happens, and there's a real cause and effect chain of reactions. It's a real recordable event. We just don't have the recorder for it, but there's real triggers and real bullets and a real gun, and it's all inside your brain, and you can't see any of it. You can't necessarily follow along, but you can see the output, and you can know with a certainty, yeah, that's all that's happening. There's just electricity in my brain. When the electricity is in a certain pattern, this brain manifests a feeling or a thought. Move over here. Wikipedia Plus. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so he's having an argument with AIs all the time and thinks you can have a better conversation with his AI because you can force it to say what he wants to hear. And it is just, that part's even pathetic, that he can't even see that that's all he's doing. That he's just taking something that doesn't produce a very good mirror image, and he's just fiddling with it until it just produces the mirror image, till it reasons like he reasons. It's just confirmation bias and punish kind of, self-poning, embarrass yourself kind of way. Yeah. Than people. Alright, so that's him saying he'd rather talk to it because it'll tell him that he's doing a great job doing a bunch of circular garbage reasoning. You put your full name, he calls his AI George or whatever the fuck he called Claude. Right, so this is the hypocrisy of it. He's pretending that, well, we can't use terms like I or me or we or something that identifies, labels us as entities to be delivered to an address. Well, fine. Even if we're going to concede that, okay, my consciousness doesn't happen in a location, I don't know if there's a good metaphor. It's like a waterfall. Is the waterfall the part where the water goes over the edge, or is the waterfall the part where it hits the rocks and splashes around? You could, so you could argue that you need kind of all of it to get waterfall, and that's all your brain is doing. Is there's a series of events that take place, and the end product is waterfall. There's no one place that's conscious. Well, if you can give your AI a name, then why can't we have names? Right, so what's the big deal? It just doesn't, it seems as long as, and like I said, I've repeated it 400 times, I'm fine with the idea that everybody should think of when somebody says I, that what they really mean is me brain. My brain says, my brain thinks, my brain feels, my brain does that stuff. That's all it's doing. It's producing this event of being a me. Okay. And I can almost argue that my brain doesn't have anything to do with it, in the sense that my brain can't see my brain making the product of my brain. So, my brain is, surprised. It ends up having interesting feelings about the very idea of contemplating its own function. Because, yes, it can't place it somewhere. It's just a constant stream of being, a brain producing, blips of invisible light.
Actually, the majority of the people that watch, there could be 30 out of the 50 people that watch.
Right, so he's conceding his audience is a tiny bit of residue from my audience, which is kind of funny. So yes, there's a few people in my audience who have been around long enough to sort of consider the mystic part of the family, I guess. You know, a fellow traveler in some respects. And so, yeah, he's interesting. Now, obviously, newer people, he's not so much interesting anymore because he just talks this silly shit. But yeah, so yeah, so there is a, and like I say, for me personally, I'm just saying this was a person. I would argue this is, you know, one of the people on Earth you could find that's probably the most well-read. You know, has at least rubbed up against, you know, more books. You know, he'd be in the top 1,000%. You know, if you took 1,000 people, you know, he'd always be in that top 1,000 in terms of how, yeah, I don't know the right, intelligent, you know, yeah, and yeah, and but he thought, you know, and like I say, he just throws it all away by making some ludicrous argument that he can't understand that feelings happen in the universe, and that they're kind of really important thing happening in the universe, a lot more important than. I'm just trying to think of something, some idea, like obviously thinking about how to cure cancer, how to save somebody from being swept downstream by the tsunami or something would be worthwhile thinking. But I'm just saying most of the other shit going on, you know, whatever your brain is producing doesn't add up to much, but the feelings, they add up to a lot. Doo-doo is diamonds. You know, it's completely opposite, right? So it's so foreign to me, you know, that you could, you know, it's like he's taking something really valuable and diminishing it to nothing, and taking things that are not valuable and elevating it to meaning something, and that's really irritating. If it doesn't matter how dystopian a world I can create, as long as I win. And that's frightening to have intelligent people defending that shit. Yeah, so there's just an awful lot of that, right? As the intelligent people are just in it for their own advancement, and that's about as far as they see. And, it's the my kid thing, even. You could just argue, like, how could any smart person think they should treat their kids better than other people's kids? Because it's just, it's so stupid. I mean, not to realize that the only reason why the kid needs to be cared for is because it's a kid, not because it's your part doesn't have anything to do with its needs. You know, it's the idea that it has a potential to be achieved, and to think that only your kids deserve help in achieving their potential is just so fucking stupid. It's the real subject, and again, evaded. Alright, so real subject evaded. Maybe we should go back to that and see what the real subject is. So the big picture subject of him pretending to say that somehow when you connect the dots of reality, feelings aren't in there anywhere. Right. No. So there's no place that they happen. They don't happen to a thing. You know, whatever. They obviously happen to a thing. I mean, I just don't know how you could say it's not happening to my brain when my brain's producing it. So, you know, it's on fire. You know, that would be happening to it. You know, in terms of it's just it's a mechanical function it's doing. And the doing is the event of having it happen to it. I mean, you know, if I put the match to the gasoline and it starts to burn, you know, it's happening to the gasoline, even though the gasoline is what's creating the reason why there's a fire. You know, but it's still happening to the gasoline in a way. Certainly not unreasonable, and for him to pretend that it's somehow some kind of thought crime our logic error to say the gasoline is burning, when technically you could argue that no, it's combining with oxygen and this is, and it's more complicated than gasoline doing something. That's not even a good analogy, because again, it's just a fact that our brain produces this. The event of you having a thought and you having a feeling. There's just no denying the function. That's what the whole thing is for, is to do those things. And they do them in an order, and that changes, creates behavior, and the behavior is what the DNA is after. Conniving moron. It's what we're designed to be.
If nobody's really going to be helped by it? It's a good question,
Be helped by it. I wonder what he's talking about. Yeah, well, maybe I'll go a little further back. Obviously, it's always a good question to ask, why waste time? Because it's sort of precious, and there's so much to rescue. There's so many rescue missions to go out there on. Trickery. You were just trying to trick people by talking about feelings, making having any reality, meaning anything in the universe.
Comments that are meant to be these kind of killer comments. And this one is, why do you recommend religion?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, so he thinks it's his... I remember, the stuff that sticks in your brain. There was a picture of a kid in, Nigeria or something, and he's working in some rock mine place. And his job, 12 hours a day, is to hit rocks with a hammer and make this size rock into that size rock. And Mystic's reaction was, well, it's as good as any other life. And you're like, what do you mean? How could it possibly be as good as? I could imagine so many other lives that would be so much more interesting and rewarding and better for your health and all that kind of stuff than doing that all day. So it was just such a stupid, crass, insulting statement. It doesn't matter what state you're in, as long as you feel okay. And that's the part that's just, no, it matters. So obviously religion is toxic to reasonable function, in the sense that it's, it's just duplicity and hypocrisy for most of the religious people. They just pretend to be decent, and they're not. And then it just preaches a bunch of keep investing and subsidizing thoughtless and reckless behavior based on some notion that it's all going to turn out okay because God said so.
Even people that watch my videos trying to understand them would always struggle with is what I've called the levels.
Oh yeah, and this is just his patronizing way of saying you're just not at his level of brilliant observation, because you're not able to understand that feelings don't happen. And that's what he's really, again, that's all he's saying. He's just saying they don't happen. Because it's not happening to a thing, it therefore can't be something that happened in the universe. And of course, it's an event. It's happening, like the waterfall. It's happening.
I'd like to say the end of the Second World War and
it goes a little bit before that, when they built the first little colony, and then they decided to make. Oh, he brought the Middle East, and so let's avoid talking about anything like that. Yeah, no, it's, all kinds of stupid ideas, and again, just because of people's own personal passion and more hypocrisy. People who would say they wouldn't subsidize somebody else having a special promised land, but for their people, yeah, okay. I mean, that kind of bullshit. Muslim, and they automatically... Oh, so let's get the hell out of that subject some more. YouTube is spinning. Well, I guess we'll take a break because YouTube is spinning. Alright, back. Just as context, you know, so, you know, we're all like sitting in a vat of, you know, what do you feel like today? Mood vat, you know, and my mood is just kind of, So I just don't feel, you know, I don't feel terrible, but I don't feel good, you know, and it's just, I'm sort of tired, but I know that's not it. There's something else, you know, some little thing wrong, some chemistry, and it's just enough to make you irritable and yeah, you don't want to do anything. Nothing's very appealing, and particularly making a video, it just doesn't appeal to me, yeah, at all. But anyway, I'm here, and I'll struggle through and try not to let my mood degrade the quality of this presentation. But I think it already probably has. But anyway, it's the best I can do. Sorry. That's the best I'm able to provide at this time. This is how the water's falling. You know, I'd like to make the water fall better, but I just don't have that power. I don't. Brain can't make brain. No. Just can't really work that way. It can't invent it out of nothing. It needs to wait for it to be invented. Yeah. More ethical in the sense you have some notion of doing unto others and all that kind of crap. So yeah, there's some hope for you if you're religious. So he's just comparing being a religious kook to being some other kind of kook or asshole. Well, whatever. The point is we really want to do things for the right reason, not the wrong reason, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, you know, it's just it's, you know, okay. I shouldn't have to defend being logical and reasonable and being fair to the facts in terms of your acceptance and rejection of them. Just amazingly stupid.
Backup, aid, mental fallback that you would get from a local church and local church society.
Okay, so all of this crap that doesn't have any... Again, it's about the quality of your existence and not the quality of your existence in the sense of what did you do with your life. And it's not so much how you experience being alive, it's about what happens to the rest of the feeling things in the world because of your brain doing what your brain is doing. So again, what's at the table stakes, yeah, you have a piece of personal flesh in there, and it's very distracting, okay? But if you're smart, you know that the one that's yours personally is more important than all the other coins. So let's say you've had your quarter for 25 years and it's your lucky quarter, you know, some kind of scenario like that, and you have to put it into the pot and you really want to keep your lucky quarter. You know, so you think it's really important because your quarter is invested, but it's really just a quarter. And all the other quarters are lucky quarters to somebody else. They're all just as important. And, you know, that's just not... You don't need a big, giant brain for this. You know, come on. Is there any other way to describe the reality? I'd say no, not a reasonable other way. So if you want to invent abominable snowmen who say your life is more important than everybody else's, you can do that, but you know, it's just bullshit. Your welfare is not more important. Your welfare is not more important. It's just a fact. You know, unless you want to make the argument that you're going to, you know, invent penicillin or something. You're going to do something so spectacular that you're worth extra indulgence. that you should get an extra portion of food. I mean, that comes up in movies. So my brain just came up with a reference to a movie. Now, what the hell was it called? Well, anyway, they crash an airplane into the desert, and they have to rebuild the airplane into a smaller airplane, you know, to get the hell out of there. And Jimmy Stewart, I think, and somebody else and whatever. Really interesting movie. Ernest Borgnine, I think, was in it. Yeah. But anyway, you know, so there was a little portion in there like, okay, well, I'm the guy doing the work, and, you know, I'm the engineer. I need more water. I need more everything because I have to function. You assholes are just going bang, bang. You know, I'm doing more stuff. And, you know, so, you know, and so there's a certain logic to that. Believes it. He knows that's not true. And he's talking as if, well, look, us, the 99%, are wondering why you cultists are bothering thinking feelings matter, when we know most people think they matter. Right, so that's kind of, you know, another part of his arrogance and obnoxiousness is to pretend that the thinking he's doing is so, you know, it's what science says, and it's not what science says. It's what he's just perverted and distorted an AI into saying. Anyway, continuing. Where he's basically saying feelings are, science says feelings don't exist. Yeah, so that's not what science says. So what science says is yeah, they don't land in some place called feeling bubble. You know, and that's feeling bubble does the feeling. It's all just crap. Your brain just keeps throwing crap. It's like there's 100 of you or 200, or every thought you have, you could say is a different little piece of you. And obviously you have conflicting thoughts. You know, you have a, you know, and it's almost like both of those people are you. So it's just a processing machine, and it's just processing, and whatever it ends up, you know, is its filters decide what you are. And you can sort of argue that the filters are reliable. You know, that my filters will never have me say something giving any quarter to imaginary thoughts of spiritual somethings, or the fact that your brain is somehow fingerprinted somewhere and it's going to be regenerated in some form after you're dead, that still exists as a physical construction somewhere. You know, or some, no, my brain's always going to filter anything that says that's true, anything that thinks that, it's going to filter all that out. So we know those thoughts will never make it through the process of ever being thought by my brain, because my brain just, no way, ain't gonna happen, ain't gonna imagine it, ain't gonna try it, ain't gonna practice it, ain't gonna think it over, because it already has done all of that, and it's concluded 2 + 2 = 4, and I ain't gonna waste any more time on proving it. There's no God, okay? And I'm not going to waste any more of my time proving it to me that it's true there's no God, okay? I'll waste some time trying to convince you there's no God, but I'm not going to waste any more time convincing myself.
Would be hand in, hand out, oochie oochie out. Now,
okay, so this part where he just, so this is the tactic of people who do this glib crap. But anyway, I mean, just to trivialize torture, nail in the eye kind of torments into trivial stub toe kind of conversation. And so I thought that was beneath his dignity also, to resort to such a cheat, you know, to pretend that the hard torturous pain and suffering that people endure in the process of like dying should be insulted, okay, as an event, by being compared to whatever, you know, bang your head on a cabinet door or something. It's one neuron, one long neuron, right to your brain. So he's just, again, this is, alright, so it's, you know, don't need to get into all that technical crap about exactly all that crap, because, you know, it doesn't matter. Obviously your brain makes the feeling, and it makes you think you feel it over here. like in your finger or someplace, but your brain is making the feeling, and it's it just doesn't matter what it makes you feel it. Obviously there'd be no sense to the brain making it feel like you were the tree over there and you were feeling the pain in the tree or something. But theoretically, I suppose it would be possible for your brain to create that illusion. Because it's made to be a defensive system, so that's one of the defenses. It has to be able to react very quickly sometimes. All right, so yeah, some of this brain stuff is interesting. I mean, the whole fact that we have more than one reaction system, reflexive system, so it's like more than one brain, and these are almost levels of brain that you can say, one's a lizard, and one's a squirrel, and one's a minky, and then you get to humans. And so yeah, you can do all that, but obviously we have muscle memory, and you'll have reflexes, autonomic system that reacts, even your eyes, just a shadow moves in or something, and you have a whole bunch of reactions that your brain didn't process fully, and it's just creating a very quick response. The absolute unyielding, penetrating pain. Yuck. Right, so and again, he's just insulting all of that by trivializing it and try to pretend it all away like it didn't happen and it doesn't mean anything, and it's just, like I said, I can't, you're almost saying, I can't believe somebody intelligent would mock suffering. I mean, it's, just, I can't believe that can happen. That this isn't about little people. It's not as though people could. And look at him. He's using an analogy full of little homunculuses all over the fucking place. Right. So homunculus is the word they use for this idea that you have a brain inside your brain controlling your brain. Because that's what it sort of feels like. There's a you in there. But that's what it feels like. That's what it seems like. But there isn't any you running you. Okay. It's just a brain. And it reliably produces you. There's no homunculuses. There's just your brain. Your brain creates the motion coordinated to the sensations. Fact. So it's just a bunch of reactions, a bunch of very organized reflexes, that create what turns out to be really, incredible function. To create all these sentences, to, some people speak multiple languages, to do, it's an incredible function. It works really well, as a device, and it's just this tiny function that we have to do, which is care about the truth. If you don't have the care about the truth thing, then you might as well not have a calculator anymore. But I mean, the idea of what it can do, what the brain can do, is incredible in terms of this logic it can apply and the modeling it can do and the abstractions, and it can connect the dots and add something up and figure out some new way to mix the ingredients to create some new thing. I mean, it's, invention, so to speak. Just really incredible device, and it's all ruined because people want to give it magical and spiritual context.
Then the central phone over to PR and go, there's been problem down in the hand.
Yeah, right. So he's again just trivializing pain into some message transfer thing, and again, he's already saying his argument is there's nobody to pick up the phone. The brain isn't a place. It doesn't have a phone. It's none of that. It's just doing it. It's just burning the fuel. and the fuel is the input pushes, and that's the fuel, and it gives light to them. It sets them on fire, so to speak, in terms of giving them this conscious byproduct.
Yeah, we're activating the
so again, trivializing the worst kind of suffering you could endure, and he's trivializing it. It's just ew, creepy. So obviously the output is a sensation. We experience it. It's idiotic to say it didn't happen. It's idiotic to say it didn't happen. Yeah, so there's not much you can do, right? So, I mean, you're just arguing that, okay, what's the point? I mean, you're going to have a whole conversation about how this machine, this processing device can do calculations, it can do this, it can do this, it can learn how to skill, it can become very good at it, it can, learn how to throw baseballs, it can do all kinds of things. And you're going to pretend that the thing that has the obvious value component doesn't actually happen in the same exact way, that it doesn't get produced, and it's an output, just like you moving your arm. Having a feeling is the same kind of thing. Your brain pulls the little triggers, and it's just not a real arm. It's like when somebody has an amputation or something and they still feel like their arm is there, it's that kind of thing. It's your brain is going to feel in some imaginary limb, kind of thing. It's always imagined. Even when the arm's there, it's still imagined.
So what is going on? And it seems to link into what I've always been on about, where Gary and I started with free will all those years ago. And Gary, of course, that went with the determinism, not me. I went.
So again, more bullshit. I don't even know what he's saying when he says Gary went with the determinism. I mean, he said things like, well, you can talk about the physics, and then he did the whole, it's like on a CD or something. I mean, he was pretty also convinced it's all determined, it's all cause and effect. So, it's just hard to know what he's talking about sometimes.
Allow it.
Not very
He'll
clear.
keep saying I'm injecting some spiritual entity into the conversation somehow because I say it's a fucking brain, it's possessed by a fucking body, it is an individual unit, it's undeniably.
Right, so there's no, it's just no point in worrying about saying things like I, and just acknowledging that, well, some people might say I, they mean their whole brain body. And I might say it just saying, oh, fuck the hormones and the rest of that shit. Just let's talk about this I part. It's just the brain. Me brain.
Welfare supporter. Yeah, I think animals feel, and I think everybody should be concerned for their welfare.
Right, so that's all these videos, all these years, all this shit. It's just about humans being nicer to humans. That is, we should be efficient in how we function and interact with each other to cause each other the least amount of grief. And so I've argued for things like a sensible right to die. I mean, there's no point in forcing people to live when they're done living. Their brain is finished. It's just really stupid to torment them for nothing. For some, as a sacrifice you're making to your God. You'll sacrifice somebody else's right to expedite their death, and that's disgusting. Those kind of subjects. Okay, just efficiency things. Quit paying teachers, pay kids. Pay kids to learn. They'll learn a lot more, and they'll learn a lot quicker if they see the direct incentive. So instead of giving the $150,000 to a silly building and an institution and a bunch of nonsense, give it in chunks to kids to eventually pass a GED. Especially now when it's all available. You don't need all the teachers have been video recorded. We all have all their Their contribution is already, we don't need the live performance art, we have the movie. So it's just way past time to fix these things, but you can't, you know, humans are too stupid. You can't have a conversation about fixing anything. And obviously one of the big fixes is one of the big problems is having to acknowledge the cruelty of nature and the fact that we are the smartest thing nature has produced, and we are in fact responsible now for what it does and how it does it, because we're allowing it. Just a fact. We're living off of it.
Bunch of electricity, okay, moving around, that's creating a screen, a projector, and a feeler. And it's just creating all of those things.
Right, so it's not a real screen in your head, it's not a real projector in your head, and it's not a real homunculus sitting in the chair watching the screen, watching what your brain is producing. I mean, that's how it feels for me. I mean, I'm just saying that consciousness is just like you're feeling sort of locked into being a you know, your personality, and you're just in the chair just waiting for the next event to take place. And the events are going to be created by your brain, so your brain is just, you know, fucking with your brain. Your brain is doing it all. But it does have that feeling, you know, of a you in a theater, but it's all, you know, it's all, that part's an illusion, okay, but the fact that you're having the illusion is a truth, it's a fact. Now, it's not an illusion, the mechanical process that takes place that makes you think that or feel that, that's not an illusion. You're feeling, you know, those mechanical, I mean, I didn't say these sentences without neurons doing all kinds of shit. And you don't have a sensation without neurons doing a bunch of shit. So, you know, what it feels like doesn't, you know, how badly we describe what it is like to be alive and conscious doesn't change the fact that every moment of your being alive and conscious is a brain function, a pattern in your brain. None of it happens fakely. You know, there's no fake feelings or fake thoughts.
You know, I like to play golf. I find golf interesting. It's because it's a different, you know, I was associated with it differently. I connected to it differently.
So I was just talking about how all these different people connect to different things and become, you know, structured where their brain reflexes, the triggers are pulled for different things. And all of that should be something we can all understand, you know, to some extent. But that's the part that I'm, you know, in my old age and finding it hard. It's not just old age. I mean, frankly, the world has changed. I mean, it's a different America than the America I traveled in as a youth. And just a fact. And I don't particularly think it's a better America. You know, well, because a whole bunch of it you can't even, you know, you can't even talk to it because it doesn't speak English anymore. So there's a lot of things that have changed it. And so what was I saying? Yes, but all of that is understandable in the sense that, but yes, these are all people too kind of thing. And yeah, and so they like to play their radio too loud. Okay, you can understand. It's just unfortunate they don't seem to understand when you say it's too loud, that somehow they don't know. What do you mean too loud? You know, what, they can't understand the concept? It's, you know, but you're just saying, see, that's where it's just too hard to accept. It's too hard to accept that people can be that stupid. You know, that obnoxious. You know, where they have some motorcycle that just makes an obscene noise. And they think it's fun for other people to be annoyed and irritated. And you're like, well, fuck, that's not... I shouldn't be able to understand that. I should find that obnoxious and stupid and irritating. I should want to throw a rock at it. And somebody else could be playing sissy tennis or something.
Is you've got as far as, well, first you've gone as far as I don't, so you don't think you've got...
I don't, so I don't even know what that means, but obviously we all have our own... So this all started because I wrote a sentence poorly, in the sense that I said I to start a sentence, and then I said I am okay with saying my brain. And I should have said my brain is okay with saying my brain. You know, so it was just a little word verbiage failure on my part, a typo. And, you know, as the cheaters do, he just focuses on that and ignores the whole rest of the video and the subject, the comment. Blob of mush feels, and it's just doing it. I don't know, you know, there's now the commercial is on there. I don't know why that's there. But anyway, you know, like putting butter on ice cream or something. I mean, there's all these really tacky commercials on YouTube. And you're just like, shit. You mean real companies won't put video, you know, and it's on like movies or anything you watch. They're all tacky commercials. There's like, you know, it's like there's no real product that wishes to advertise on YouTube, which is kind of funny. Or is it the audience is that dumb? And, you know, they'll fall for this voodoo, you know. You can lose 30 pounds in 24 hours, you know, and, you know, miracle cures for your diabetes. You know, I mean, it's just so tacky. Oof. Ew. It's just scary. Alright, so enough of a video. Till the next time and such, but fuck. Yes. God. Yes, God. It's just... The only good news is becoming so hateable that eventually I will be able to just throw it away. Yes, eventually. Yeah, I keep thinking I can just... I do cut him off for a while and I don't watch, and I just say, okay, just don't watch his videos. You know. But he is a touchstone. He is a thing in my world where I just can't pretend yeah, that I'm satisfied. I'm just unsatisfied that this is not resolvable, that we can't get him to just admit the truth that he's some sort of religious kook or something, you know, that he's talking this wacky shit because he's, you know, got it written on his wall and he doesn't want to have to paint over it. You know, he's got some mantra. He's got a bumper sticker he can't peel off the car, and so he's going to keep defending it. You know, because he doesn't want to let it go. It's his lucky quarter. All right. So, anyway, apologies for yeah. I mean, I just you know, I just didn't. I mean, I have to get more stuff done. You know, I have to get the, you know, some kind of, you know, organization of the arguments and all that kind of crap, and I didn't work on that. And there's a lot of things I didn't do. But, you know, you know, got a lot of distractions. Anyway, so this wasn't the video it could have been. Yeah. But it's more than nothing. Probably. Anyway, yeah. Complain. I don't care. Go ahead and complain. I don't care. Yeah, that's the truth. I really don't. So I'm just saying this crap to satisfy myself that it's okay, Gary. You can, you know, not be, not do better. So I'm just finding excuses not to do better. And, you know, so that's just bullshit. Because I know that's bullshit. So I know it doesn't work on me either. So I'm not buying it. So even though I'm saying it, you know, yeah, I'm doing the best I can. Yeah, I already know. Fuck you are. Do better. So you don't need to complain. Because I'm obviously already complaining for you. Yeah, yeah, see? So it works out okay. I mean, whose complaint do you think I'm going to pay more attention to? Yours or mine? Yeah, okay. So, I've already complained to the management. Do better, blah, 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 you suck, I'm going to sue you, you fucker. So, I've already done all that, so you don't need to. Alright, so now, till the next time, and such, and so forth, and whatnot. Yeah, one doctor said I have silent migraines. So I don't get a headache. But I get this. Yes. Anyway. So it's a viable argument. I mean, you get some of the other symptoms, but you don't get the headache part. And so that Anyway, till the next time and such and so forth and whatnot. It's enough. Yeah, it's enough of a video.